Okay. All right, well, it's 6 p.m., so we'll get started. Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for being with us this evening. Thank you to our committee members. We'll start by calling the meeting to order. The next item is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor. Great. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, Ms. Janes, I'm afraid I may need your assistance. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I believe there had been a request to amend the order of the agenda, and it would be appropriate to do that at this time.
Is that sure? Yeah, go ahead. Councillor Osanek. Sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry. I wish to thank you, Madam Chair. I wish to amend the agenda to bring forward business items 2 to 5 first, followed by agenda item 1.
Okay, so there's a motion to amend, seconded by Councillor Kiley. Help me out, Ms. Janes. Is this something that we debate? I didn't prepare for this.
A motion to amend can be debated if there is any debate. If there's not, then you're free to call the question, Madam Chair.
And is it simple majority or 2/3?
Simple majority.
Great. Okay. So just before we get to the vote, then I just would like to point out that there has been other members of the committee have requested more information on one of the items, the first item on the agenda, essentially. So there was some discussion of getting that information prior to moving ahead with that agenda item. So just want to put that information out there, because if we go ahead and approve this motion to amend the agenda, that will mean that we will not have any opportunity to discuss what might happen with the first item on the agenda until later in the meeting, when in fact that first item on the agenda would potentially be moved. So I'm just putting that out there just as a sort of just some information for members of the committee when you decide to change the agenda, because for anyone who's watching at home, if you want to know what will happen with the first item on the agenda, we can't have that discussion until later in the meeting if the motion to amend the agenda is approved. Councillor Chappelle? Oh, you're on mute.
I think the staff are so great at muting everybody. So thank you, Madam Chairperson. I hadn't had a chance to reach out to anybody, but I did have a conversation with her chairperson today about because there's 2 different qualifiers on the item number 1 on the agenda. I wanted to have more time to break out those 2 sections. So it was my intent, after the agenda was approved, to put forward a motion to defer item 1, for another week or so that I'd be able to address that. So that's my intent, and I think that's what Madam Chairperson is alluding to.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chappelle. And yeah, so I think what we'll do then, rather than because we have a motion on the floor already, which is to amend the agenda, we'll just have to deal with that first. And if people want to move, okay, if people want to, good to have the information, Councillor Chappelle, but we will have to deal with that separately. Councillor Kiley, go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just to clarify, I guess to staff, if we move this, that doesn't have any impact on our ability to defer later, right?
So go ahead, Ms. James.
Through you, Madam Chair, no. If you reorder the agenda now, there is no reason why you couldn't consider a motion to defer at a later point in the agenda.
Perfect. I think that's good then. I'll support this.
So just so we're clear, Ms. James, so that means we approve the change to the agenda and then immediately, or does
If you approve the amendment to the agenda, then that functionally takes the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee and moves it down to business item 5. We would consider appointments then to the Taxi Commission, Heritage Kingston, Municipal Accessibility Advisory Committee, Arts Advisory, and then discussion with respect to Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee would commence, whether or not that leads to consideration of applications to recommend for appointment tonight, or whether that leads to a deferral is yet to be seen, but that's when that discussion would take place.
But your response to Councillor Kiley suggested that we could entertain that motion to defer at another point in the agenda, but really you mean only when we get to the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee item on the agenda.
That's correct. It would not be appropriate to defer an item when it's not under discussion.
Okay. All right. So just so everyone's clear, if we approve the amendment to the agenda, there will be no opportunity to defer or change, no opportunity to defer as was alluded to until later in the agenda. Anyone else on the motion to amend? Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? So that carries by a vote of 3-2. Okay, so the first item on the agenda then will be, we'll just continue on with the original housekeeping motions here. Confirmation of minutes. So next we need to approve the minutes from the Nominations Advisory Committee meeting number 02.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes.
We actually need to approve the agenda as amended.
Oh, as amended, exactly. Okay. So now can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Moved by Councillor Osanek, seconded by Councillor Neal. Great. Seeing no further discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Thank you very much. Next, confirmation of minutes. So the motion is that the minutes of the Nominations Advisory Committee meeting number 02-2021 held Wednesday, January 20th, 2021 be approved. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Chappelle, seconded by Councillor Stanek. Great. Any omissions, questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Thank you. So we have any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we have no delegations. We have no briefings. So next we'll deal with our business items, beginning with business item 2, which is Taxi Commission. And before we get started, we'll just review how we will proceed. I know we've been able to do this a few times together as a committee, but it is always challenging when you're dealing with good applications and wanting to do a really good job of making sure that everyone's been considered and making sure that we've had an opportunity to do some important deliberation here. So it will be, we'll just review our process for members of the committee and also individuals at home. Welcome, Councillor Hutchison. The agenda has been amended to move the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee item to the end of the agenda. So we are commencing with business item number 2 right now, Taxi Commission. So there are 2 appointments that we will make this evening for the Taxi Commission. And you've all received hard copies. We have a list of 10 candidates for these 2 positions. And so what we will do is I will first open up discussion, and if people want to indicate a particular candidate that they're in favor of and any rationale for that, essentially indicating a short list so for your preferred candidates for these spots. We'll have an opportunity to do so at the beginning. Then we'll go to a vote. Because there are 2 appointments, that means each individual committee member will have 2 votes. We'll review the names. We'll go through them one by one. There are 10 of them, and we will have 2 votes, and we will vote using our 2 votes, going through the list of names, come up with a short list at that point. To determine the short list, the first round of voting, if people on the list receive 0 votes, they will be removed from the short list. And if someone receives, let's say, 4 or more votes, which would be a majority, they would be, essentially, so sorry, not just 4 or more, but the highest number of votes. But it would have to be a minimum of 4 in order to be considered selected for one of those spots on the first round. If we have space still to continue this process, we will do so. We'll have another round that'll be quite similar. Any questions on that at this point? Okay, so seeing none, would anyone like to begin with anyone want to provide a short list or any comments in support of a candidate at this time? Okay, not seeing any. Great, we will, oh, sorry, Councillor Kiley, go ahead.
So we'll put forward someone right now, just to be clear.
Sorry?
Put forward a name right now?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so my first choice is, just flipping through my notes here, to Abreu. Solely for the fact that he has been super persistent in applying to a number of committees over the last year or 2. And I believe based on his notes, he still hasn't been appointed, but his passion for the city is clear. And I think that alone warrants his name being put forward. And then my second is Diane Aziz. We know that she has a great deal of policy experience and has worked for provincial ministries. And I think that she would bring a good mind to the committee's deliberation. So I'll put those 2 names forward to start.
Thank you, Councillor Kiley. Anyone else? Councillor Chappelle? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. The name that I would like to put forward is Stephen Fraser. He previously served on the Taxi Commission and was a good asset, but there was some troublesome issues with the previous chair, so he decided that he stepped away. And I was spoken with our city council representative, Councillor Gorey, and she would like to have Mr. Fraser back on the committee because of the experience he brings. They've made some substantive positive improvements going forward in this term. And I think Stephen would be able to bring that continuation. And so that would be my first choice. I do agree with Councillor Kiley that Diane Aziz is a good policy person, but a person that did tweak my interests was Marie Renee Bazile, because of her involvement with the community, and I think that the connection with the military is a good step as well.
Thank you. Councillor Hutchison, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, I wasn't lighting up, so I didn't know. I agree with Diana Aziz. She has a really good background in human resources and analysis, and I think that would fit well in taxi. My second choice would be Paul Chavez. He has a long history with correctional services. I didn't pick him for something else, so I thought that he has the insight necessary to do the job.
Thank you. Councillor Neal, did I see your hand? No, okay, Councillor Sanik, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My first choice too is like Councillor Chappelle. It was Stephen Fraser. So that's 2 strikes from 2 check marks for Stephen Fraser. And my second choice is Anthony Carroll because he has experience driving taxis. So he'd be able to provide insight.
Thank you. Councillor Neal?
Yes, I guess I'm going to say me too on a couple of these. My first choice was Diane Aziz. My second choice, because of his background, previous service, was Stephen Fraser. I also liked Mary Belzile, but all three of them I think are highly qualified. So.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I think we can go to our first round of voting then for the Taxi Commission. Ms. James, can I ask you to read the names and help us keep track of the votes?
Certainly, Madam Chair. I do notice that we do have two public members in attendance tonight. So perhaps before we start any voting, we could check with the members of the public to see if they wish to speak. If you do wish to speak, if I could ask you to raise your hand in Zoom. That raise hand function can be found along the bottom of your Zoom screen. I do see that we have a member of the public wishing to speak. So if I could ask Elizabeth to unmute that person and
my apologies. I am going to save my speaking point for afterwards. I was testing the function. Thanks so much.
Okay, certainly. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Yeah, please, if you could remind me then, Ms. James, I can't see members of the public on my screen.
Certainly. You would like me to read out the names, Madam Chair?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Number 1, Joseph Abreu. Kim Atwood. Madam Chair, did you want me to read out the number of votes as well, or are you going to announce that?
Okay, you're keeping track of the number of votes?
I am.
Okay, great. So if you could read out the votes as you go through, that would be good. Yeah.
Okay, so I will just back up because I realized I did not read out for Joseph Abreu. He received 1 vote. Kim Atwood, 0. Diane Aziz, 4. Next candidate, Marie Renee Belzile, 0. Next is Anthony Tony Carroll. That's 1. Next candidate, Paul Chavez, 1. Next, Andrew Duncan, 1. Stephen Fraser, James McCall, 0. And William McMillan. Okay, so I can verify that Joseph Abreu received 1 vote. There were 4 votes for Diane Aziz, 1 vote for Anthony Tony Carroll, 1 vote for Paul Chavez, 4 votes for Stephen Fraser.
Okay, thank you. So then if you could then give us a list of who is remaining on the list. So who did not, excluding those who received 4 votes, what our list is at this point.
Mr. Abreu, Joe Abreu, Diane Aziz, Anthony Tony Carroll, Paul Chavez, Stephen Fraser.
Great. Okay. And so Diane Aziz received the most votes at 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So at this point, point of order, Councillor Hutchison.
Sorry, but based on what you said earlier, the Aziz and Fraser not just simply be nominated?
Aziz would certainly be nominated, having reached a majority.
Fraser got 4 too, I think.
Fraser got 4 too. Great, thank you.
Yes, he did.
So
Madam Chair.
yes, then that would be the case. Thank you very much. 4 is the threshold for majority.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks to you both. And also, so that concludes the selection of the 2 candidates for Taxi Commission. And I just would like, before we proceed, to thank all of the applicants who put their names forward for this committee. And I would encourage you to do so again in the future for this committee or any other. We really do value your input and your participation in our organization. Okay, so the next one on our business, our agenda will be Heritage Kingston. So in your package, you can begin at page 323. Heritage Kingston requires 2 positions to be filled. And we have 24 candidates for the 2 positions. So again, I would just like to begin by welcoming any member of the committee to provide any input or essentially a short list. And go ahead, Councillor Sanek.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my short list for the 2 would be number 18, Janine O'Reilly, because she does City Hall tours. She has a pioneering history and her love of, genealogy and history. And my second choice is number 21, Edmund Ted Smith. Again, because he's a photographer taking lots of photographs of heritage buildings downtown, both 2 very passionate people. So those are my 2 picks.
Thank you. Councillor Neal?
Great minds think alike and fools seldom differ. Those were my top 2 choices as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kiley?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I had Janine and Edmund as well, or Mrs. Smith or Mr. Smith and Miss O'Reilly, but I also had, out of interest, Blaise Dupuis, because he's a Mason. And so he's actually doing the practical work of heritage conservation. So I'm going to put his name out there too, because I find that intriguing. It's kind of like when we appoint a worker to KEDCO or other folks that are essentially frontline to the topic at hand. I think that he's the only candidate of the lot who would fall into that type of category, and I think that's important.
Thank you. Any further recommendations? Go ahead, Councillor Chappelle.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I also agreed with Councillor Sanek with Janine O'Reilly, and leaning back on Councillor Kiley's early remarks, Joseph Abreu, I think, is a person who wants to be involved with the community. So.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hutchison, go ahead.
Thank you. I also picked Ted Smith because he's demonstrated a long history of being involved with and interested in heritage in Kingston, including being involved in the 1980s when they were trying to put a shopping center in the middle of downtown Kingston. And he and a number of other citizens, I wasn't here for that, stood up for the downtown area and succeeded in repelling that. That's just one of the things. And then there's photography. Also, I picked Andrew Duncan, who's a military officer, but that wasn't the qualification I was looking at. It was his experience in the US dealing with heritage there and how they treat heritage and architecture. And I thought that that wouldn't hurt us as a bit of that. And he has consistently applied, to use the reference that Mr. Councillor Kiley used. And so at a certain point you think, well, he should get a hearing at least. So that's why I suggest him, but I think Janine O'Reilly sounds like a good one too. So.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Sanek, yeah.
Madam Chair, can I just ask you one question for the brew? It says Odessa in his address, and Councillor Neal sent an email, I think yesterday, just asking if people do have Odessa or I know we have Gananoque as another address. Are they allowed to apply? Ms. Janes, are they allowed to apply and we consider them just as if they have a City of Kingston address? I know one person for one of the applicants does have an address, I think in Athens, but their business is in Kingston. So I understand that part that they're allowed to, but for these other applicants that just have a home address that's not actually Kingston, how does that work?
For you, Madam Chair. Geographic location within the boundaries of the City of Kingston does not always 100% line up with a person's assigned mailing address by Canada Post.
Okay.
I can confirm in the case of Joe Abro that he is in fact a City of Kingston resident, that address on Unity Road is located within the City of Kingston boundaries. We see this regularly during the election as we're mailing out hundreds of voter information notices to primarily rural residents living on the sort of the borders of neighboring communities, because there is a little bit of overlap in terms of, Odessa in Canada Post's terms versus Odessa in City of Kingston terms. But I can in fact confirm that this person is a ratepayer in the City of Kingston and that they are qualified.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And Councillor Chappelle did give me an answer like that yesterday, but then last night when I saw a Gananoque address, then I got worried again and just wanted to get that confirmed.
Yeah. Gananoque, Sealy's Bay, Harrow-Smith, Odessa are all sort of frequently addresses that are questionable, and we do endeavor when we see those addresses to verify that they are in the City of Kingston geographic limits before we include them for consideration.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or discussion before we move on to a vote? Okay, so seeing none, we have 24 names, and Ms. Janes, if you wouldn't mind coming back with us and walking us through this process. So we'll proceed again as before. We each have 2 votes, and the first time through, we will see who has the highest number and who has the lowest number or none, and we'll go from there.
Okay, Joseph Abro. That's 1. Sarah Anderson. None. Joseph Brandt. None. Wayne Buller. None. Yolenka Burney. Andre Degagne. Andrew Duncan. 1. Blaise Dupuis. 2. Gunnar Heisler. 1. Shan Hamandas. 1. Colleen Kelly Jansen. 1. Trish Kraus. 1. Sharon Krishnaswamy. 1. Lisa Vimal MacDonald. Rachel MacDonald. William McMillan. None. Michael Muse. None. Janine O'Reilly. That's 4. Brendan Ride. Oh, sorry, Councillor Osanek, was your hand up as well? Okay, so my apologies. That is a count of 5 for Janine O'Reilly. Brendan Ride. 0.
Sorry, did you miss one there?
No, I missed Councillor Osanek's hand for Janine O'Reilly, but I have it now.
Okay, just because my list has a number 19.
Brendan Ride?
No, my list is different than your list. Diane Ratcliffe.
Right, so sorry, when I did my hand up, That was because for number 18, Janine O'Reilly, it was Councillor
Yes.
Lee, myself, Councillor Neal, Councillor Holland, Councillor Chappelle. So my hand was like for 5. That's what it meant.
Yeah, so we have 5 for Janine O'Reilly.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I missed one here. So Diane Ratcliffe. Sorry, I missed that one. Okay, that's 0. Brendan Ride, 0. Edmund Ted Smith. That's 3. And then, sorry, Natasha Verkerk. That's none. Jessica White. Timothy Woodford. None. And that was the last candidate. So you can go through that and confirm that Joseph Abro had 1, Andrew Duncan had 1, Blaise Dupuis, 2, Janine O'Reilly, 5, Edmund Ted Smith, 3. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candidates with votes. Sorry, my light is just shining strangely on my paper here. I'm having trouble seeing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candidates who received votes. Janine O'Reilly received 5.
Great, thank you. So that means Janine O'Reilly will be selected for one of the spots, given that she has the most votes and more than 4. And then we will continue on with the list of the remaining 4. So just
So
everyone knows who those people are again. We have Joseph Abro, Andrew Duncan, Blaise Dupuis, and Edmund Ted Smith. Would anyone like to provide any further comment on any of those candidates? Councillor Stanek, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So now we just vote once, right?
We'll have one more. Yeah, that's right.
We just do one vote. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Ms. Janes, go ahead.
Hey, Joseph Abro.
Oh, wait, sorry. I don't think we were at the vote yet.
Oh,
I thought
sorry.
You, no, I thought you just had I thought you had further information there. But
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was adjusting my desk lamp so that it wasn't shining strangely on my paper. I was having difficulty reading. I didn't mean to confuse you.
no, it's okay. I'll check one more time. Does anyone have anything to say regarding your final selection? We have one more candidate. One more spot, one last round, perhaps. Okay, so Ms. Janes, if you wouldn't mind helping us through them with the four candidates for the next round of voting.
Okay, Joseph Abro. Let's see, 0. Andrew Duncan. 0. Blaise Dupuis. 2. And Edmund Ted Smith. Let's see, 3. Okay. So that was Joe Abro received 0 votes. Andrew Duncan received 0 votes. Blaise Dupuis received 2. And Edmund Ted Smith received 3.
Councillor Hutchison?
Okay.
You're on mute.
Okay, so it's not necessary, but that means only 5 votes were cast.
Yeah, you're right. So,
Did somebody forget, or did they decide not to vote?
Councillor Chappelle?
Yeah, no, I had my hand up for Blaise, but it dropped too quickly. But
Okay.
I apologize about that. It just didn't get caught my screen, and that's not the clerk's fault. I should have spoke up.
Okay, so that's a tie. We have 3. Looks like we have 3 for Blaise Dupuis and 3 for Edmund Ted Smith. Is that correct?
So I would just like the proponent for Blaise to speak and the proponent for Mr. Smith to speak, and then I'll probably pick one or the other.
So yeah, we will have another round of voting. Does anyone want to indicate your support? Go ahead, Councillor Kylie.
Just jump in. And to be very clear, this is not a vote against Mr. Smith. It's unfortunate that people have to be paired off against each other like this because it really is not about that. The reason why I've advocated for Blaze is because I hope that as a city, as an organization, as a corporation, however you want to say it, we're moving towards the inclusion of end users more and more in how we do policy. And again, this person being someone who's actually doing heritage restoration could be considered an end user in some regard. And also getting the lived experience of people who are directly impacted by policy generally, I think is a good idea. And again, he may represent that here. So that's why he'll have my vote tonight.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Neil?
Yeah, I wish that one of the councillors that's on Heritage was still here, because I know 3 years ago when I was active on Heritage, there was in fact a stonemason that had been appointed to Heritage. I would support, I supported Ted Smith because he has been active over the years. And as Councillor Hutchison pointed out, going all the way back to the 80s, he was very, very active, particularly in preservation of the downtown. Either of those candidates, and I've got a little roulette wheel going in my head as to which one I'm going to vote for, but either of them would be excellent members of the Heritage Committee.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. We'll go through the votes again for the remaining two candidates. Ms. James, please.
Our first candidate is Blaise Dupuis. I see 3 hands. Our second candidate is Edmund Ted Smith. I see 3 hands.
No chance of just adding another spot to the committee?
Let's call the mayor.
Councillor Hutchison?
Satisfies some people, but in the past, we've put, I don't know how we're going to do this, but we put 2 names in a hat and we picked one. Because otherwise you get into determinal, like, I don't think there's anything more to be said for either candidate. They're both worthy. I think we all agree to that. It's just, are you going to stress the more policy versus the more practical or directly involved side? Both are reasonable arguments. So we could do that. It offends some people, but it is fair. I mean, if it's so close, what can you do? But Councillor Neil has something to say.
Yeah, Councillor Neil?
As somebody who has lost 2 votes from a name in a hat, I'm not a big fan of that approach. Although it's necessary if it becomes a 3-3 vote entrenched. And I'm not sure it's entrenched. So I would support the picking a name from a hat after we've at least gone through it one more time to see how entrenched the votes are. Does that make sense? I don't always.
Yes, okay.
That's good.
Yeah, so rather than start out and have everyone switch votes and then continually end up in a tie, I'm just going to start out, and then if anyone else in the group, since I haven't expressed my perspective on either candidate yet, that will hopefully help. I'm prepared to change my vote this time and go with Edmund Ted Smith. I chose Blaise the first few rounds. I really do appreciate the experience, the work experience and perspective that he brings, that Councillor Carly mentioned. But I was very close. It was very tough for me early on. And I do feel that the sort of built heritage nature of that focus on restoration is something that's important, but it's a bit limited in contrast to what Edmund Ted Smith brings with the range of experience. So I will be prepared to switch my vote this round, just in case anyone else would like to hold firm, but we shall open it up and continue the discussion. Anyone else? Councillor Sanik?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to say that both candidates are so strong. And if they are watching this afterwards, they're just both so strong. And so there's going to be an opening on Heritage Committee again, for sure. And we encourage everyone to reapply because all the candidates are so strong. And this is the hard part of the committee, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay, so we'll go to the next round, final round probably. Ms. Janes?
Blaise Dupuis. I see 2 hands. Edmund Ted Smith. And I receive 4 hands.
Okay, so that means that our the 2 spots for Heritage Kingston will be for Janine O'Reilly and Edmund Ted Smith. And we congratulate them. And we also thank all of the other very qualified candidates who've made our decision so difficult. And yes, to echo Councillor Sanik, please do continue to find ways to be involved and put your names forward in this process because we need as many people as possible to be a part of the work that we do. Okay, so going back to the agenda, the next business item is Municipal Accessibility Advisory Committee. That will be in your package beginning on page 413. And so there are 13 candidates total for this committee and 1 appointment. And so now I will provide an opportunity for members of the committee to give some input or provide a short list and speak to any one of the candidates. It will have to be really just one. Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
I've been a long time member of this committee and it's a really great committee. I've always leaned towards trying to get as much representation of people with lived experience. And I just want to say that that's less of a concern for me now because we have really good broad representation on that committee. So so I'm a little more open-minded about who to select for that reason. I don't think necessarily it has to be somebody with lived experience, but perhaps not with accessibility issues. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone, Councillor Hutchison? Go ahead. Yep.
I'm glad to hear that. Because I know from previous appointments that there are pretty strict rules, I believe, governing how many people with disabilities have to be on this committee. And I'm taking from what Councillor Neal said that we don't need to concern ourselves with that right now. First of all, am I correct about that? As I remember, a certain number out of the 15 had to be, yes, there's the clerk. Okay.
Go ahead, Ms. James. Yep.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Hutchison. Yes, you are correct. That is a requirement that a majority of the members be members with a disability who identify as having a disability. And yes, Councillor Neal is also correct in that we, at this point, are well beyond a majority of the membership who identify as having a disability.
Right. Okay, thank you. And I do remember that at some point, last couple of years or so, we got a really strong slate of candidates, and we were able to do that. So, nevertheless, one of my choice, I've two people I think are good for consideration, and I'm certainly open to others. Number one, Kim Atwood, who is a mature student, I think, a PhD student in following transportation, and she sits on the Kingston Transit Board, and she's in a wheelchair. So I think she could bring a number of aspects to this. And then Maxine Bridges is a retired executive director of a mental health not-for-profit. And but there are other accessibility issues there. So in her experience. So those are two people I think worth considering. But we only have one vote.
Thank you. Great. Anyone else? Oh, Councillor Neal, go ahead.
Yes, I thought Kim Atwood was a very strong candidate as well, both she's working on a PhD, she has an interest in public transportation. And so I think she'd be an excellent addition to the committee.
Thank you. Councillor Senick, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also wanted to point out Chantal Baksinski. She's number 4 on the list. It's because she identifies with a medical disability. Her daughter has a disability and her mother. And so she's always, been lots of experience there over the years, knows exactly what the needs are. And also number 13, Nicholas Tolyezi. Ms. Janes, I know you're really good with last names. I'm not so good, so I apologize for how I might have said Nicholas's last name, but he's a Paralympic swimmer, and he holds a Canadian record as well in swimming. So again, we have a good list of candidates here for just one spot.
Thank you. Councillor Chappelle.
Thank you. I was just waiting for the unmute button. Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I have to agree with Councillor Osanek on Nicholas. I believe having a candidate that is already proactively working in the community as an insurance broker, demonstrated years of experience fundraising for Easter Seals, Sick Kids Hospital, Make-A-Wish Foundation, as well as being the Olympian. I thought his candidacy was an excellent one. The other person that brings a lot of credit to this committee and might bring some business and experience with regards to the factors that the people with disabilities face is William McMillan. Works at he's got an extensive experience as an advocate working in the field. Just let me find his, I just lost his page for a second. He's the one with the huge package with the photo of him. He's in the industry of working with disabilities. In-depth knowledge of the legislation. A longtime Kingston resident. Substantive fundraiser for different experiences, and certainly a person who's well versed in the OADA, the ESA, and the OHSA, which is important, I think, to have that policy skill set in terms of the skills in that regard. So I do like him very much, William McMillan.
Thanks. And Councillor Kiley, I think you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not going to vote for him, but I just wanted to mention Corey Scott, who works at Keys with students that have exceptionalities. And so in many cases, those would be, I believe the language is invisible disabilities. So that's a dynamic that I'm not sure is currently on the committee. I've decided on Kim Atwood myself based on a number of reasons that were stated. But yeah, I think that Corey Scott's experience perhaps in the future could be useful.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? All right. Okay, Ms. Janes. You're on mute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Seems we're all doing that tonight. I do notice that that our attendees do have their hands raised, so perhaps if we could go to our public members before we start the round of voting and ask them if this is the item that they were intending to speak to.
Great. Okay. So I see Manuela. Are you ready to speak?
Oh my God, no, go ahead, you go.
Oh, I think you might have clicked on the wrong name. It's William McMillan. Thank you, Councillor Chappelle, for putting that forward. I just wanted to attend today to really show my advocacy for this particular committee. I have worked in a number of different industries, including Canadian Pacific Railway. I'm currently the Associate Director of Workplace Relations for St. Lawrence College, and I frequently deal with the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, as well as the Occupational Health and Safety Act. I did start a group at Queen's University called Friday Friends, which is a group that takes individuals with intellectual disabilities and gets them to basically interact with the Queen's community and Queen's students. So we take them out every Friday to different events. I have also done volunteer work and also did a bike-a-thon for the Children's Treatment Center, which is located in my hometown of Cornwall, Ontario. But I have been a longtime resident of Kingston, recently moved back from Calgary, and it would be an honor and a pleasure to serve on this committee, not only as an ally and an advocate for those who really do need that advocacy approach, but also a masterful skill and understanding of the different policies and legislation that governs different entitlements, as well as employers as they are supposed to see the AODA and the OHSA. But I'll leave it to you for the final vote. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you. Any other members of the public to speak before we continue? Okay, so seeing none, Ms. Janes, if you could help us with the vote.
Certainly, and Madam Chair, I just did want to point out that there was one name that was, there was an application for this committee that was included on the addendum. So I will read the name out just to make sure that we are including everybody. So there is actually 14 candidates. So I just wanted to clarify that. First name is Kim Atwood. I see 3. Next name, Mercedes Augustin. 0. Maxine Bridges. 0. Shantai Buczynski. 0. Sajida Saika Damji. 0. Michael Judd. 0. Lisa Keelan. 0. Sharon Krishnaswamy. 0. William McMillan. 2. Nomusa Nagoma. 0. Corey Scott. 0. Jane Thelwell. 0. Nicholas Tolgiesi. 1. And number 14, John Tacone. 0. Okay, so we have Kim Atwood with 3 votes, William McMillan with 2 votes, and Nicholas Tolgiesi with 1 vote. So nobody has achieved the threshold of 4.
Okay. So we'll do another round with those 3 remaining names. Would anyone like to speak to them? Councillor Neal?
Would we do the 2 names and drop the one with the lowest number of votes?
Yes, I think that is correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, just to confirm then, if we're dropping the name with 1 vote, that means that the names still up for consideration are Kim Atwood, and William McMillan.
Okay. So any comments then on for this round of voting? Okay.
I believe it means that Councillor Zanuck has the swing vote this time.
Good. Yeah, that is a tough position. Okay, so Councillor Zanuck, go ahead.
So I did have Kim Atwood as a top contender as well. Another thing I liked about Ms. Atwood was that she was had used to been an occupational therapist. So her patients are, like directly dealing with, mobility issues. So she's got that experience. Plus, yes, working on her PhD in the field and her wheelchair. And Mr. McMillan, that was a great speech you gave. Hats off to the qualifications that you outlined in the application. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Schwab?
Yeah, being involved with this committee since being elected, this is the first opportunity where I've had an applicant come forward with so much interest to present themselves and speak on their own behalf rather than leaving it to council to speak. And it wasn't overly aggressive. It was just matter of fact, and this is who I am. And I'm really impressed with William McMillan, and I would hope that we can go to another ballot rather than swing vote so quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other words from members of the committee? Seeing none, we'll go through the two remaining candidates then for the vote. Ms. Janes, please.
Kim Atwood. 3. William McMillan. 3.
Okay, so not so much of a swing voter this time, Councillor Zanuck. Okay, so thank you, and now we will entertain another round of conversation, discussion. Councillor Kiley, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I'd be willing to change my vote for the reasons Councillor Chappelle has articulated. I think that's very true. So I'll vote the opposite next time if we go to a vote.
Okay. We will be doing that. So anyone else before we go back to the vote? Okay. So we'll go through that one last time by the sounds of it, Ms. Janes.
Kim Atwood. I see 2. William McMillan. I see 4.
Okay. Wonderful. So we have one new member of this committee. Congratulations to William McMillan. And thank you to all of our applicants. It is very difficult to decide, and we really appreciate your having your all of your expertise before us as we try to make a decision and contribute to these committees. Okay, so the next item will be the Arts Advisory Committee, and we'll have one appointment for that committee, and that's in your package. If you go to page 452, you will find our list. And I don't have them all written down, so just to make sure. So I've got 35, and any on the addendum, Ms. Janes? Yeah. Sorry, you're on mute.
This is what happens with the late council night the night before. Apologies. I mean, I know we're all in the same boat. Yes, Mr. John Tacone was listed on the addendum, so that will bring the candidate list to 36.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Great. So 36 applicants. We'll begin our discussion with any comments. Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Yeah, Tim Fort is a soon-to-be retired drama professor from Queens, and is a somewhat recently retired high school drama teacher. I think I won't declare conflict, but I will support him. He's been very, very active in the theater community, both in Queens and in the community. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sanik?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This time I'm copying Councillor Neal. He was like, this was really hard because there were, 36 and then today 35 and today 36 applicants. But yes, Tim Fort was my number one just from all of the experience that he showed on his application. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'm just gonna, Councillor Hutchison, go ahead.
This is a bit of a procedural issue. I don't want to, but I believe Manuela Rodriguez Bowen is in the room. She was. So fair is fair. We should, if she is, we should allow her to speak to her own candidacy.
Yeah, we'll get there. I wasn't quite done with the speakers list here yet, but
Sure.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so I will point out that that is not a practice that we really want to adopt. It'll be like giving some people interviews and other people not.
Okay, well, doing this on Zoom is still a little bit new. Before we would meet in person, we had members of the public who were able to attend in that forum as well. So, Ms. Janes, I don't know if you had any comments on the participation of members of the public beyond that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, not really. I understand what Councillor Hutchison is saying. There's nothing that prohibits an individual from speaking on their own behalf. It is true that although we've been using Zoom for 15 months now, and it seems like it's been going on forever, the Zoom world is still a little bit new, and typically we would meet in person. And one of the things that has resulted from our virtual meetings is that we have seen participation increase in different ways. Typically nominations meetings have always been open to the public. Certainly in my tenure with the City Clerk's Department, they were regularly not well attended. They regularly did not have any public attendance. Not to say that if somebody showed up and wished to speak that they wouldn't have been permitted to do so. It's just something new that we are dealing with. It's not to say that it's bad or good, it's just new, and it's something that we just have to be cognizant of as we go forward. And I think that's where Councillor Hutchison was just cautioning. But there's nothing that would prohibit it.
All right, okay, so I saw Councillor Chappell's hand first. Go ahead, Councillor Chappell.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. The person that I will be supporting is Edmund Ted Smith, former City Councillor. Oh no, that's wrong. Sorry.
Advisory.
Yes, you're right.
Though he is on that list.
Where
no, sorry, no, you got to continue on.
He's on the other list. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're right. He's on that list. He's number 30 on the list for Arts Advisory.
I'm going to recant, let someone else speak. I apologize.
Sure. Councillor Neal?
Just quickly, we seldom ever had, as the Deputy Clerk mentioned, when this was done up in the Councillors' Lounge pre-COVID, I can only remember 3 times that we ever had people come in delegation to speak to it. So we'll have reached that in one meeting here. And the 3 were Ketco, would always would come frequently, and there were 2 other occasions when individuals came to speak on their own behalf. So I don't think we're depriving anybody of an opportunity to speak. In fact, there's going to be more speakers tonight than in any single meeting of this committee that I've ever seen. So just wanted to put in my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. Okay, and so and also we're not going to debate this. This is a process item that is going to be reviewed. I think everyone on this committee knows, and members of the public should be informed that there will be a review of the nominations process. It's currently underway, and we will have a report back from our staff with any recommendations on how to improve our process for selecting candidates for city boards and committees. So there will be changes in the future, and but we're not changing anything on the fly tonight. Councillor Hutchison, did you have anything to say regarding the candidates at this point?
No.
Okay. Councillor Chappelle, go ahead.
So many, thank you, Madam Chairperson. There's so many outstanding candidates, incredibly passionate people for the arts community, I must say. But the candidate that I'm going to put forward is Joseph Brandt. He's currently a communications specialist, but in addition, with the Faculty of Engineering, but in addition to that, he actually has a business degree and a master's in fine arts and a member of a marginalized group. And this is his first choice. And I think that he can bring some interesting perspective to the arts community. Certainly has demonstrated in his submission, he put a lot of thought into it and expressed why he felt this was a committee that he would really appreciate being part of.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Any comments on candidates? Go ahead, Councillor Hutchison.
I don't think this will affect any votes, but it's something we probably as a committee ongoing should be thinking about. We have candidates here who are primarily interested in branding, marketing, and that sort of thing. And they often turn up. And we often opt for artists who, after all, have to market themselves and often have that experience as well. But it's sort of it would be good to know what the committee thinks they're looking for. That's what I think would be useful in the future. And they just gave us an outline, couple of sentences or something. Then we would know which way to sort of lean when there's difficult choices. But other than that, I'm fine with Tim Ford too. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hutchison. I'll just add that is something that is a part of the review. So we'll hopefully, it's to look at how we do things, but also to hear more about how to ensure that we're meeting the needs of the committees. Councillor Neal?
Very quickly, and I hope I'm not jumping the queue. I think Councillor Sanek had her hand up previously, but I will jump the queue. I've been a long-time member on the Arts Advisory Committee, and it is a well-balanced group of people. And we have an excellent arts and cultural department that provides a lot of the marketing and those kinds of things that are needed. But we have musicians, film, theater, live music. We have a good cross-section representation on the Arts Advisory Committee, so including fine arts. So
thanks, Councillor. Councillor Sanek?
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Okay, excellent. Sorry. All right. So anyone else? Okay. So again, we have only one spot, which means only one vote for each member of the committee. And Madam Chair, if you could guide us through this list of excellent candidates.
Certainly. Joe Abro. 0. Mercedes Augustin, 0. Diane Aziz, 0. Madison Beresford, 0. Joseph Brandt, 1. Shantai Buczynski, 0. Riley Cassidy, 0. Rebecca Darling, 0. Helena Debnam, 0. Blaise Dupuis, 0. Richard Flanagan, 0. Tim Fort, 2. Mohammed Kashif Gayur. Sorry, did I
Point
miss
of order.
somebody?
Sorry to interrupt. Point of order. Madam Chair, through you.
Sorry,
there
go
was
ahead.
I believe there's a miscount on two applicants ago. I saw 3 hands and I heard 2.
Okay, Tim Fort, is that the one, Councillor Kylie? Okay, could I ask everybody to raise their hands for Tim Fort if that was where you voted? Thank you. I see 3. Thank you, Councillor. Sunita Gupta, 0. Catherine Haikila, 0. Gunnar Heisler, 0. Sean Hernandez, 0. Colleen Kelly Jansen, 0. Lisa Keelian, 0. Rachel MacDonald, 0. Nomusa Ngoma, 0. Hams Mahamoud Abdi, 0. Chris Pasveer, 0. Colby Pereira, 0. Claudia Pierre, 0. Heather Poshman, 0. Manuela Rodriguez Bowen, 0. Brendan Ride, 0. Braden Stachel, 0. Ted Smith, 0. Sanko Take, 0. Natasha Verkerk, Leela Viswanathan, 1. Sarah, Counselor,
Point of
did I
order.
miss
Sorry,
you?
sorry, through you. There are 2 for that pass vote for Leela.
There was 2 for Leela? Okay, can counselors, can you raise your hand again, Leela? Okay, I see 2 now, thank you. Sarah Wild, 0. Bob Young, 0. And John Tacone. Okay, so according to my notes here, that is 1 vote for Joseph Brandt, 3 votes for Tim Fort, and 2 votes for Leela Viswanathan. And Madam Chair, I do see that we have a member of the public with their hand raised, so perhaps before we move to the next round of voting, we could hear from them. I didn't see their hand earlier. I apologize for that.
Okay, yeah. Please go ahead.
Hi there. Thanks so much. This is Manuela Rodriguez Bowen, and I did put my name in for the Arts Advisory Committee, but I do concede my vote to the other candidates put forward. But I heard Tim Fort's name, and he's actually recently retired in 2020 from Queen's University as as a professor in the drama department, and he has been very well loved and esteemed within the drama and the arts community in Kingston. And I know that this isn't a tiebreaker or anything like that, but I did want to put in a good word for him as someone who is so passionate about the arts and theater for young artists as well, and someone who is, you know, an educator for the young folks going out into the community and onward. So I just wanted to put in a word for Tim Fort.
Thanks
Thank you.
so much. Thank you. Thanks so much for your application and for the information. Okay, so we'll go to another round then. This will mean that Joseph Brandt, who received 1 vote, will not continue on, being the lowest vote. We have Tim Fort with 3 and Leela Viswanathan with 2. I'm just going to start off this time in case we're sort of heading towards another 3-3 scenario by saying that I was so impressed by Tim Fort's application, and it's been a long time since I've been on Arts Advisory, but in my time there, it seemed to be that we could use more representation from the theater community. So I would be happy to see him be a part of the group. The reason I chose Leela Viswanathan on the initial round was that I thought her background in geography and planning would be really interesting on this committee. It was her #1 choice. I thought it would really, I know that we do have great staff support from our cultural department on the committee, but I just thought it would be interesting to see a combination of geography and urban planning integrated into the Arts Advisory Committee to sort of help facilitate some of the work on public art. And not to say that that wouldn't happen with our own staff through the various departments working together. I think that's possible. So therefore, I will be voting this next round for Tim Fort. Any other comments or discussion prior to the next round? Okay. All right, so not seeing any, we have 2 remaining candidates. Ms. James, if you could lead us through.
Certainly. Tim Fort. I see 6 hands. So that does not necessitate us carrying on any further.
So congratulations to our new member for the Arts Advisory Committee, Tim Fort, and our many, many thanks to all the incredible applicants. Please do continue to keep us in mind for your future volunteer opportunities. Okay, so back to the agenda. We're now moving on to the item that had been moved from the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee. So that begins on page 252. We have a significant number of applicants in this category, over 70. And there has been some discussion prior to this meeting about perhaps needing some more time and some more information in order to do what we need to do to initiate this committee, to get it started off in the best way possible. So Councillor Neal, I saw your hand.
Just quickly, I just want to say I will definitely support a deferral. I'll be free Monday or Tuesday night next week. If we can kind of figure out everybody's schedule. I did have a technical question for Janet, though, if I might.
Sure.
These 9 members, we're being asked to pick 9, but some of them, by the way the description is, will be looked at as representatives of certain community groups. I'm just wondering how we're going to work out the logistics of that.
Okay, I'm going to start with that actually, Ms. James, if you don't mind. So yes, Ms. James and I have had some discussion about this prior to this evening. There are spaces available. The description of the committee requests that we seek 5 members that are essentially community members, and 4 members who have some organizational affiliation that is involved with equity and diversity work. So yes, it's true that there is some of the applications provide that information more directly than others. And so, Ms. Janes, I'll just turn it over to you if you could maybe sort of help us out to figure out what our next steps might be to make that information more clear or available to the committee.
Certainly, thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Maybe a little bit of background first, just in terms of the process that we undertake to reach out to members of the public to recruit. One of the pieces of feedback that we've heard at times is that that the application, it's too hard or it's difficult. It needs to be easy for people to apply. And one of the pieces that we've received positive feedback on is that we have a single application, but that allows people to apply to more than one committee. When we look at the process that's used in other communities, they will have individual applications for individual committees. So, if somebody applied to 3 of the committees that we're considering filling vacancies for tonight, they would have had to go through the process 3 separate times, 1 for each committee. And I'm sure you can imagine that can be a bit of an onerous process, having to sort of put your information down 3 different times. And so we try to find a balance between making the committee application process easy and usable for applicants, while also trying to tailor an application so that it will suit the uniqueness of different committees. In this case, I do think that it has been a bit difficult for members of the committee to determine whether an individual is applying to the committee to be considered as a representative of the community or as a representative of a community organization. To that end, staff, if a deferral were considered, staff could endeavor or commit to undertaking to reach out to the applicants via email and ask them to confirm by return email by a certain date. It would have to be a quick turnaround time in order for us to meet early next week, but ask them to confirm by return email, say by the end of the day on Friday. If they are applying as a member to be considered as part of a community group representative, if they could indicate what their community group affiliation is. If they don't respond, then we will assume that they are applying as a committee to the committee, as a community member. We could share that information with the committee in advance of a meeting early next week, if that is something that the committee would find of assistance. And Councillor Neal, Monday is a holiday.
Yeah, we'll get to that point. We haven't seen a deferral yet. Yeah. Councillor, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. I'm not trying to confuse things further, but this struck me today in preparation for the meeting. When an individual be a member of a committee on behalf of an organization, do they have to have the blessing of that organization? Can person X say that they're representing the approval of that workplace? And again, I apologize, that didn't dawn on me until literally, 5 or 6 hours ago when I was going through this. It's just something to consider because it could provide a potentially awkward situation. Hopefully not, and I trust that it won't, but it is something to flag.
Ms. Janes, I think you're probably best to, I can respond, but you go ahead if you want. Go ahead.
Certainly. So, that's certainly something, Councillor Kiley, and through you, Madam Chair, certainly something that we would hope that individuals are receiving the blessing of their supervisor or of their organization when they are applying. That's not something that we have the ability to require or validate in the sense that we're looking for members of the public at large who are associated with an organization, as opposed to looking for a technical representative that is appointed by their organization. So, with Arts Advisory Committee, we do have certain technical representatives that are appointed through the Kingston arts community. And so in that capacity, this committee does have that sort of level of satisfaction that the person is doing so with the blessing because they are being appointed. But this is a bit different because there are so many community organizations. We can't possibly have a technical representative from every single one. And so it's a difficult thing for staff or for this committee to validate. But yeah, like representing a sector is sort of different than representing an organization.
Great. Councillor Kelly?
I appreciate that, and I don't want to sound like I'm making things more cumbersome for staff or individuals applying. I think that streamlined process that you described is important. But perhaps a letter from the employer rather in future years could be considered, or something to that effect, only because again, it seems like there is a possibility that this could become dubious if someone says, I'm the City of Kingston's representative doing this thing, and the City of Kingston hasn't confirmed that in some way, and I'm using our corporation as an example. That could be potentially problematic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not necessarily that sorry, Madam Chair, I think the intent, as I understand it, is not necessarily that somebody is speaking on behalf of their particular community organization or that they are the official representative, but because of their affiliation with that organization, be it through an employment capacity, a volunteer capacity, that they have experience in this area, even though it may not be lived experience.
Okay, I hear you. I would just comment it's a fine line, but I take that distinction that you've made.
Thank you. And yes, okay, so Councillor Rosanek, then Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, like what Councillor Kiley just said, when I was going through all the resumes, it did get a little bit blurry. And so the way I was trying to look at the 4 people from groups versus the 5 people at large was looking at their experience, and if they're actually for a living, you know, doing EDI in their profession, or if they're with like as their job, Kingston Immigration Partners, or their job working with youth at like home-based housing or somewhere. I was kind of then sorting through them in the groups. Yeah, if we contact them, like what's going to happen if somebody doesn't see the email and doesn't reply back in time, like especially going into the long weekend. I'm not sure. Like I was just kind of thinking that maybe staff can give their best shot as to, you know, sorting the 2 groups and for the criteria of those, you know, groups versus at large. Who remembers? Is this something that council? This came from staff, right? I think forming this committee came in a staff recommendation report. So maybe we could go back to the staff of whatever department brought this forward. Like it was communications, wasn't it? Like JC Kenny possibly. So maybe she can assist. It came in a recommendation report, I think, Ms. Janes.
Okay, sorry, we'll get to that. It was approved by council already, though. So this is council direction at this point.
Yeah, just for clarification, like what it was, because obviously we need more direction.
Yes, I will agree with you, and we'll go to Ms. Janes in a moment. We still don't have a deferral on the floor. I'm really glad to have the opportunity to hear from members of the committee about some of the reasons why we might need to have more time or more information. I guess just what I would say, just to follow up with one of your comments and concerns, Councillor Sanik, was, you know, what would happen if people didn't receive the email? We can adapt somewhat when we do return and have a vote on this the next time around if it were deferred. This was a recommendation from another member of the committee, by dealing with those sort of defined members of organizations at the outset, filling those spots, and then everyone else would continue to be considered in the next group. So everyone still gets consideration. and due consideration. Though, you know, definitely we welcome more input on that process, but I'm not sure we're going to resolve all that this evening. Councillor Neal, I'll go to you next. Go ahead.
Thank you. I didn't mean to stir up any kind of controversy at all. I would suggest that, first of all, this is the number of applicants we have is testimony that this is something the city clearly desperately needs. And it's something that I don't think for any reason we should delay this process beyond our June 1st meeting when our selections can get approved. I would suggest that we just treat this for now as select the best 9 applicants that you believe from the list. And then after the fact, take a look at, I doubt if we wouldn't end up finding 4 of them that have that kind of background that we're looking for. I agree with Councillor Kiley that we don't want to have people going through the awkward position of saying, oh, I was a school teacher for too many years. I represent Gananoque Secondary School, and some of my principals would have agreed with that, and some of my principals wouldn't have agreed with that. And so that is potentially problematic. So I think if we just look at the applications, find the 9, what the 6 of us can decide are the 9 best applicants, appoint them, and sort this out for the next time we do, we run this application format. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll continue with Councillor Hutchison in a moment. I just want to first point out so to your point on the decision to choose 9 without any further information on affiliation with an organization, I would just add that given that it's in the criteria for our nominations deliberations at this point. We can't change that without changing it through council. And so if more information can be gleaned through sending an email to individuals who maybe didn't indicate that they had involvement with an organization that while is not a form of representing a group, but is a kind of an experience that would be considered valuable under the criteria of an organizational affiliation, then it would be worthwhile to have that information before us. I just wanted to add that, not to say that, your position of choosing just 9 there are so many qualified candidates. We have no risk of not finding 9 who are exceptional candidates for this committee. But I think the real question is making sure that everyone who applied is being evaluated based on providing as much information possible that would be relevant to their ability to be selected. Councillor Hutchison, did you want to go ahead?
I want to agree with the chair that we have our description of what we're supposed to do. It can't change without council's say so. Agreeing with Council Neal, we have to do this. When I was going through this, I thought, well, I won't say why. The important part is that I was color coding so that I could pick out those who represent organizations. I agree with Councillor Kiley. it gets a bit fuzzy, right? And Councillor Sanic. So the way I was doing it was, and I think we can do this, is you look for people who work with the people that fall into the categories or that are named in the description. And I found there's quite a fewer of them than people that have would fall into the faces systemic barriers to employment group. They may overlap, but that's not a problem. If we appoint the organization part of it first, and then let everybody else go into the group that's left. And so there's no secondary aspect to that. It's just that I think, and this is not unlike what the city does, they look for some expertise, working knowledge of the situation, and also at large, as we've called them even here, large representatives from the community. So given that, I agree it probably needs to be looked at again, but we can't do that. We're not in a position to do that. We have to make the best of it as we can, and I'm suggesting a way in which we can say, well, we did it as best as we were able. Because when I looked it up, I don't know, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like a dozen or so people who work with organizations, right? The rest of the folks who applied, there's lots of really qualified people, are at large community people. And so we can do this. Not maybe as totally satisfactorily as we would like, but we can still do it. And that's our charge. That's us. That's what we have to do. So I think I'm hearing myself clear. So I'll leave it at that. And so it's just people that work with organizations and work with people that fall into the categories, and and then the others. Then we can go from there. It's not easy, and we might have some differences of opinion on that, in which case I believe we should go to be inclusive, right? So we don't miss anybody. I don't know if staff can, I mean, I agree with Councillor Sanic, phoning people or emailing people now is fraught, right? And partly because it seems to me, I know for myself that, for instance, there are 4 people on this committee that are in planning. So Thursday is out. The Inner Harbor contamination meeting is on Wednesday at 5, and it won't be done for a couple of hours. So I think we're down to Tuesday. So personally, I don't have your schedules in front of me. So it's fraught to do that. So.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I take your point regarding the scheduling. I will maybe get there. Councillor Chappelle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a bit of a novel idea. And I'd like to just, before, I am certainly interested in putting forward a deferral until Tuesday if everyone's available Tuesday. But there is so many interested parties. I'm sure we all have lists. I haven't been able to pare it down as much as I want to. But I would propose that if we each selected, without any huge debate, say 15 people, and then see which ones are commonalities, and then just, if we were to contact those staff, have staff just reach out to those people that end up on that list, we will then pare down the list of 70 plus to perhaps 30 or 40 and half, and then we can have that meeting on Tuesday. I don't know, I'm just putting it out there for an idea, and that we just don't get into debates. We're just, on our first blush, we just go through who we're picking to that we would be promoting. We don't speak about it today. We take more time to reflect on them. We look at what other councillors have suggested. Maybe we modify our own personal list, and then we meet on Tuesday. That would be the way I would think we could pare down this because it's just such a quantity of qualified and passionate residents.
Thank you, Councillor Chappelle, and I will come back to you for that deferral motion. I just want to, no one wants to have more sort of, I don't know, information on how to proceed in the future regarding our process for nominations. No one wants that more than I do. I guarantee you that. At this moment, we are so close to getting that information and having that information go to council and having a full discussion on what a good process would be for the future, so that we don't have to spend time in these meetings going over our process every time. And I really do want that, and it's coming. And in the meantime, I just have to say that, you know, for the sake of consistency, transparency, and fairness, I have to commit to doing things as we have done them, which would not involve what you've suggested, though they're great ideas. And I'm really excited for that information to come from staff someday so that we can figure out a way forward that allows us to get as much information as possible and make these decisions in a way that, you know, really is to the greatest benefit to the public and to the committees that we're trying to fill the spots for. But we're not able to do that, I'm afraid, this time. Councillor Chappelle, did you have a motion to defer till next Tuesday? Or till Tuesday the 25th?
Unmuted? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairperson. What I would suggest is that I think amongst my colleagues, we've certainly come to the agreement that we want to take time to reflect on this incredibly important committee that has a lot of focus from our residents. I don't think there's been another committee that has received so many applicants. Perhaps historically, Councillor Neal or Councillor Hutchinson can correct me. But this is an outstanding outpouring of community support for this committee. And understanding and conversation, we had council last night. We've got a lot of other busy things on our agenda. I'd like to propose that we defer voting on this to allow staff to come back and help us pare down the groupings if possible to the best of staff's ability. And then I have our meeting on next Tuesday at 6 p.m. to finalize our candidates for this very, very important equity, diversity, inclusion advisory committee for the city of Kingston.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion to defer. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Neal? Okay, so we can, so there's been a date posed. I'll look to the committee to speak to time, place, purpose of the deferral. Councillor Kiley, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through on purpose to the mover, just to clarify, is the deferral with this additional layer of staff support of trying to differentiate who's who for which group, or is it just that we're coming back Tuesday? Because if it's the former, though I see value in it, I'm concerned, as maybe Councillor Holland was stating earlier, that if we're kind of changing how things are operating now, that could be problematic. But just, Mr. Simon, Councillor Chappelle, can you clarify that, please?
Go ahead.
Certainly, to take into perspective of Councillor Holland as well as Councillor Sanik's perspective, it'll be just to bring this material back. I do believe, you know, going into a long weekend, it's going to create more confusion, and someone will feel maybe someone who applied writing the application, because I do believe we have one of those. Maybe they don't have email to be reached, and I don't want to have someone feel disenfranchised or change it. So it's simply date and time for next Tuesday.
Perfect. I'm totally fine with that. I actually would personally appreciate it. It would give me more time to have a meaningful discussion. So thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Stanek?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I still think it's going to be hard for that criteria about groups. Like, how are we still going to figure that out for next Tuesday?
Okay, so I guess, so what I'm hearing so far from members of the committee is that the earlier request to staff to seek further information is not deemed necessary. I just want to mention one, return to something that Ms. Janes mentioned earlier in our discussion. So while I was making the point about not wanting to change process now because we're going to change it at some point. I do think that the distinction between community and organization in the case of this committee is different from what we've seen in the past in some ways, which was part of my original concern about those two groupings. I think Councillor Hutchison made the point earlier that getting more information is not necessarily going to, we can still make that decision by just simply making sure that we vote on the organizational sort of aspect at the outset of the meeting, and then making sure everyone is considered for, if those who did not get a position through that round of voting would be considered for the community role, the 5 community spots. That's one way to help us through that. But there is still, I think there's still, the question still seems to be whether we all have the same understanding of what the organizational affiliation means, like what that direction from council actually means. It's not representing a group. It's not representing an organization. It's, I'll turn it over to Ms. Janes to help with that.
Okay, I wanted to point out to see if this, helps to alleviate some of the concerns. But the way that it is written is it's up to 4 community members who represent organizations. And I believe maybe it's the word represent that is causing the confusion. Perhaps that word would be more appropriately expressed as community members who are part of an organization, because that is the intent. I know that's the intent because the staff report and the mandate were drafted by the clerk's department, not communications. So I've been involved with this for quite some time. There was not an intention in drafting this to have somebody who is part of an organization be a representative or a spokesperson for that entire entity. It was a means to try and include community members who perhaps didn't have that firsthand lived experience, but did have experience through their volunteer or work affiliations. That was the intent. I can see that word represent is causing some challenges. The mandate was developed, in cooperation. You'll recall that Keys was there to speak as a briefing to help support the mandate. It's unfortunate that as we were reviewing that, the word represent didn't mean to us what it's meaning to you tonight. And that's certainly something that, I've definitely circled the word in my agenda to make a note of it for future. And I just hope that sort of helps to maybe put your mind at ease a little bit in terms of what the intent of the community member representation is that they're coming in as a community member, as an affiliation with that organization, not as an official representative / spokesperson. That helps you in your decision making.
Councillor Santa?
Thank you. So further to that then, so there's a lot of people that are retired who had years and years and years of experience with all of this, but they're now retired. So because their profession was in this industry, can we consider them to be in the 4 group members, or do we have to consider them to be part of the 5 community members? How do we make that distinction then? We have lots of people in these 70 that are retired that have done this, but right now in Kingston, they're not an employee of Queen's EDI department, for example.
And again, that affiliation, although perhaps not active, is still an affiliation.
Okay. Like that.
When you retire, you don't forget what you knew. You still have that experience to draw on. So I would say that a retired person or somebody with former experience who perhaps isn't active in a community group would still be sort of affiliated in the sense that they have that former affiliation. And again, because they are being appointed as a community member with an affiliation, it's not an active spokesperson role. Because somebody, who perhaps has an affiliation with a community group but is not also part of a population that faces systemic barriers and doesn't have that firsthand experience, they cannot be included in that first category if they don't have that firsthand experience.
Okay, I love that. Thanks very much, Ms. James, for that. And then on Tuesday night, Madam Chair, we're not going to debate, like if we say a name like Bob Smith, we're not going to debate, no, I don't think he's a member of the group. I think he's like, we're not going to debate that, are we? Like if we put forward a name for a group, are we going to go for it? Or are we going to debate that, no, they shouldn't, their past experience in the workplace does not qualify them for a group. They should be one of the 5 just first group community members. How are we going to do that?
My suggestion to that would be, Madam Chair, if you would like to jump in, please do. If you'd like to have something, if it looks like you have something to say, so you go first.
Okay, well, I was just going to say, really, I think we would just be managing the voting process similar to how we have this evening and have in the past, where we're having the discussion based on qualifications for each category. So, if you're speaking to the individuals who have an affiliation with a group, you can put forward a name or not, same as we did tonight, and you can speak to their level of experience as we go through the votes. But it's not necessarily a sort of, I think we're looking for overall level of qualification and to be on this committee. So just as any other process, that's how things would unfold. Ms. James, I don't know. Sorry, thank you. And did you have anything further?
No, I agree with what you've said, Madam Chair. I would just simply add that if there's a candidate that's put forward by another member as a representative or who has an affiliation with a community group, if you feel that the criteria is not valid or warranted or sufficient to make that person eligible as a community group representative, just don't vote for them.
Okay.
And then just the last follow-up question then. So going into Tuesday night, can we do those community group nominations first?
Yeah, I think that would be the best decision.
Yes. And then, because then we could always put that person back in, depending how it goes, right, in the community when we do the 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's great. I like that strategy. Thank you.
Super. It is going to be a long night, and it's going to be a really tough decision, more so than probably any of us have encountered on this committee before. The candidates that we have in this package are incredibly talented and could take on any role in the corporation. So, and anything, I'm seeing nothing else further on the motion to defer, though we did get a date proposed, and so Councillor Kylie, go ahead.
Just on time, are we presuming that it's a 6 o'clock start? And I'm asking selfishly, I have a town hall with city staff about the youth shelter in my district. So if we could have it at 6:30, I'm not sure if that's correct or possible, but I would appreciate that.
Sure, Ms. James.
It's at the will of the committee as to the start time. It's only standing committees that have a scheduled start time of 6 p.m. This is an advisory committee.
So just looking, I'm seeing some nods, but 6:30 mostly okay with people? Thumbs up. So I don't have to turn you all on. Is that a speaking or a? Go ahead, Councillor Shaw.
So my question for Councillor Kylie is, would 6:30 be too tight for you? I know you have a young family now and you want to spend some time. Would a 7 o'clock start be better? No? Okay, Councillor Hutchinson says no. I'm just trying to be...
6:30 is fine. Yeah, that will be fine, if you don't mind.
And friendly amendment from the second.
Accepted.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Councillor Neal. So yeah, it looks like 6:30 on Tuesday, Tuesday, May 25th will be the date for this deferral motion. And so we'll go to a vote in a moment. So all those in favor of the deferral? And it passes unanimously. Thank you very much. I wanted to also thank all of the applicants for the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Committee who maybe have been watching this tonight and who have applied. And I hope that you can hang in there with us for a little bit longer and recognize that it was really only after going through the many applications that some of the that some of the sort of the decision-making process became more complex than we thought at the outset, which is what has led to this evening. And as I think was previously mentioned, but worth mentioning again, having this meeting within the next week means that the appointment will still go forward at the June council meeting, which means there will be no delay in terms of new members of the committees being able to be formalized in that position, I believe. Ms. Janes, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair, and to you, Madam Chair. Yes, we can still get this on the get this to council for consideration on June 1st, but it will not appear on the agenda. It will require a motion to have it included on the addendum for consideration on June 1st. So it still can be considered. I just don't want anybody in the community to think this is going to show up on the June 1st agenda. And then when the agenda is published, this does not appear there. The other items that we have discussed and the committee has made recommendations for appointment to will appear on the agenda. We will have to issue an addendum later on in the week, and then the matter will be considered by council on June 1st. But I just want to put that clarification out there for anybody who's watching.
Councillor Hutchison.
Yeah, just as a matter of process. So will you, Madam Clerk, will you please remind us that when we pass the motion to confirm these nominations, that we include that instruction?
Through you, Madam Chair, I certainly will.
So that staff, it's clear to staff what, I'm assuming the whole committee wants to do that, and we'll see when there's a vote. Yeah, okay, that's great, thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, so so we've moved through our business items now then. I'll go back to the agenda. We have no motions. We have no notices of motion. Any other business? Seeing none. No correspondence, and the date of the next meeting we've determined will be May 25th, which is a Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. So now I will just ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Hutchison. All those in favor? Great. Thanks so much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening.